If you've ever felt like you were doing everything right, moving forward, staying productive, but still experience regular burnout and feeling out of alignment, then this episode is for you. Today's guest is Jason Henkel, Chief Balance Engineer and founder of Focus to Evolve, and a former Fortune 100 executive turned productivity and well-being expert. Known as the Productivity Whisperer, Jason helps high performers and teams escape the trance of busyness and create what he calls spacious productivity. His journey from burnout to balance is proof that doing more isn't the goal, doing what matters with calm, clarity, and intention is. In this episode, you'll learn how to access flow states, why self-management beats time management, and how to perform at a high level without losing yourself along the way. It's my honor to welcome Jason Henkel. Jason, how you feeling today, man?
Feeling good. Feeling real good. Honored to be on here. Thanks for allowing me to come on your pod. That's sacred space, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. It's again an honor to have you here. And anytime I'm able to share somebody's story that's transformative and can help our audiences in the process, that's really what I'm looking for. And you definitely have a story just like that. So just to get into it, what was the moment you realized, I guess things, were no longer working for you. You weren't thriving. Take me back to that Fortune 100 role real quick. And,
Yeah.
even though you were checking all the traditional boxes of success, what that looked like for you and why you decided you need to make a change.
Yeah, it was a slap in the face and a simultaneous hug by my wife, actually. That was really the moment. I was deploying ERP and CRM systems. I was kind of like on a internal globetrotting team where for this huge chemical company called Axo Nobel, wonderful company. It was just big and there was a lot to do. And I had this role where we would parachute into a country or a region of the earth and we would map out their business process hierarchy and then future state their processes with them. So each country had their own, full P&L and they were their own business, basically their own business unit. They operated in 100 and I think 12 countries at the time. So it was the full earth. And so I was bouncing around doing this project, loving it because, that it was always an interest of mine to travel with business. So, I mean, on one hand, I was right in the middle of what I loved doing. On the other hand, I did slip into what you just read there in my intro is this just trance, like this trance of busyness, the trance of next and more, where the meaning and the purpose starts to leave you without you knowing it. And next thing you know, you're losing intimacy with the people in your life that actually matter when all the fun trips and business stuff dries up, who's really there and what really matters started to leave me. So anyways, I was coming home one trip to answer your question succinctly. We were deploying Southeast Asia and I was coming home from Kuala Lumpur. My wife meets me at the front door, literally from this trip. It was a 2-week trip. At the time, we had one kid at home and another one in the oven. And she met me at the front door, literally, and said, "Hey, Jason, this is not the life that I signed up for." And she wasn't joking. And it was a real heart-stopping moment. And I'll never forget that feeling. It was an instant awakening to the fact that I had lost myself in all the glitz. There were first class flights, there were Michelin star restaurants, there was glitzy, literally, and it kept the hook in deep. Like I swallowed the hook.
Yeah.
And I understand why I did. And I understand why anyone would actually. It's very interesting. However, watching her eyes and seeing that I was hurting the one person that I don't want to hurt. Oh, it still gets me. I've said this story 1,000 times. I swear I still swell up. Like right now, I'm swelled up. And it was just such a meaningful fork in the road for me in my life. And I decided right there, well, I'm going to put my 2-week notice in. I'm quitting.
Mm.
I literally decided that, but I went back. I didn't just quit. I didn't send an email. My next trip to South Amsterdam, which is where the company's global headquarters is from, at a dinner with my seniors, I said, "Hey guys, this has been amazing, but I'm going to be making a transition in my life. This isn't a job for a family guy." And there was a guy at the table. I'll never forget this. He pulled me aside after this dinner and said, "Hey Jay, man, your projects are on time and in full and the programs are working. We need you to stay. Like, what can we do here?" And I said, I've squeegeed everything out of every minute and calorie I can here. I'm one human with 24 hours and I can't be in all time zones. And it's just not for me. It's over. Like, I've read the books. It doesn't work. I just got to go, grow some roots in Cleveland, Ohio area, or Ohio, make a small consulting company or something. But he held on. He goes, hold on a minute. We would like to sponsor you into a program that's outsourced by X and Nobel. And it was like, ooh, okay, interesting. Cause I'm a self-growth addict, like probably a lot of your listeners are, and any underdog loves that stuff. So I said, well, I don't know. He goes, talk to your wife, give us 3 months. We'll sponsor you through this program. We'll call in the wolf. It's kind of like the proverbial wolf is getting called in. And so I talked to Tanya, my wife. She said, all right, man, I mean, you got 3 months. It's got to shift for real. So this program was very interesting. It opened my eyes to so many things. I realized I didn't have a time management problem. I had a self-management problem. I didn't understand anything about shadow work. I didn't understand how to address the 9,000 stories that I was indoctrinated into at birth that do not serve me well. And all the things I ended up learning how to enter flow state deliberately. I'm one of the earliest graduates of the Flow Genome Project, where you curate flow state in your life. Other things like that you heard when you and I first engaged, in that evening talk, the craft of distraction management, architectural calendaring, biorhythm adherence at work, all these things I learned. And I was like, wow, because I had read the books. Truly, I knew a lot of things, but these were just different angles on things that would work right now. Long story short, I ended up staying in that role for almost 3 more years. Didn't leave. Ended up having a very spacious last 3 years and left in full respect, full honorable discharge. It was time to go. So I'm not here to say leave your current position. I'm here to say leave your current state of operating, because there are better ones, more beneficial ones.
And also go deeper. Like,
Always.
first of all, you were doing the thing, the glitz, the glam, the Michelin restaurants, the traveling, and all these things that a lot of entrepreneurs, especially out there, kind of see in their mind's eye as this end result, this end goal. But what ends up happening to a lot of us is I think they get so detached from their why. Like, why did you start this journey in the first place? And when they lose connection to that why, you now have like these two separate paths of life happening in the same time, instead of this integration of your life and your work. And finding an opportunity to have that integration of life and work, I think is a lot of times the goal. People talk about work-life balance, but I believe there is no thing as work-life balance. It's work-life integration. If you do it properly and you take the time, like as you said, to do the shadow work, the behind the scenes things, to get rid of the limiting beliefs that you may have had from your environment growing up that are no longer serving you, that also just aren't true. So, you have said in the past, like, your mess became your message. And it sounds like, this was the turning point where that became so clear to you, and then being able to exit, very, very, very respectfully and very well to go on to do your own thing.
Correct. And I really didn't leave for any other reason than what you just said. Like, it was time for me to go be courageously authentic, and me helping our operations of this gigantic company that, like, right now in our rooms, there are probably over 500 chemicals from that company. I mean, they have their fingers in everything. And I could keep doing that for them, help them operate efficiently. Or I could go and do this thing where, holy cow, I learned how to really live a harmonized life. Like that work-life balance thing you just said, that's the way I say it. I kind of don't buy into that work-life balance either. It's all just life. And we need to hone in and craft the skills of harmonizing it in a way that we choose. That's what I was missing. And so when I finally got to a place where I thought my life is so fundamentally better in every definable way, I swear to God, I'm going to die sharing this with people. It doesn't have to be painful. You can be the highest velociraptor producer in every room and feel damn good doing it. You can. I don't take any hall passes, just for the record, ever.
Listen, man, I'm totally in agreement with that statement. Just like I never heard it said as the highest velociraptor in the room, but I like that a lot. And just that like courageously authentic, that
Yeah.
authenticity, uh,
Mm.
being able to go and do something and not doing it for the other reasons that might be being told to you by other people or the world or society, because
Yeah.
so many people also are chasing certain things for status, for financial gain, and all these other things when really like, sometimes even for myself, I got to remind myself that I'm making an impact every day in my community just by even, let's say, going to the gym and having that one-on-one conversation with somebody who saw me hit a heavy bag and they were
Yeah.
inspired by that. And then I'm able to, teach them a couple things, change their
Yeah.
whole life. Maybe they just built a little bit of confidence off of that. So I
Yeah.
think that the metrics of how you define success, oftentimes lead to either A, that output of experiencing burnout, or B, just feeling very much in alignment with what you're doing by just allowing yourself to be authentic, being courageous enough to do that. So that's very interesting, Jason.
Ron, man, we couldn't be resonating more effectively here, because that authenticity, like, I want to just take a little pause on the other, like, authenticity. It feels good. It's harder. It takes awesome courage. Like, the courage to be disliked might be one of the most important reasons to like exercise that. That's a craft. Like, be disliked by the right people. If you're liked by everybody, I swear to God, you're doing it way wrong. Just, that's a black and white binary. I try not to go binary too much because I'm a pretty quantum guy. It's always yes and. But on this one, if every single person likes you, you're missing out. You're missing out on some good living. Believe me when I tell you. And the other thing about authenticity is, sorry, I get flaily when I talk and if the sound
Please,
goes in and
I'm the
out.
same way.
Okay,
Controlling
cool.
myself over here, I promise.
Yeah, a straight jacket on. The other thing about authenticity is it's the fastest way to reality. You want truth? Watch, go out, have the courage to be the real you, embarrass the shit out of yourself. Watch how fast the people drop off that hurry up and need to drop off. Watch how fast you attract the people who love that and want to build with you. Fastest path to reality. Authenticity.
I love that, man. And just getting back to, I guess when we get stuck in that trance of busyness, we
Mhm.
oftentimes are very, very disconnected and out of alignment with our true, authentic, genuine selves because we're
Yeah.
so busy being busy. So, how does
Mhm.
somebody know that they're caught in that trance of busyness, Jason?
It's a feeling, just like all truths. Go to stillness. Watch, you'll know right away. If you feel unease at work, then you're in the trance. Now, there are a lot of layers to that. Okay, well, yeah, I feel yucky at work. I'm tired. I'm burnt. I'm definitely distracted. My God, how many emails did I deal with today? Um, I'm hurried. I can tell I'm not treating people right because I'm hurried. I know how I responded to Mom the other day and Bob this morning. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said it. It's not because you're bad. It's because you're hurried and you're busy and you're distracted and you're systemically tired. So your emotional intelligence plummets. Your ability to discern between what's essential and what's not essential goes right out the window. These are basic human mechanisms. Until you realize it and do something about it, you won't feel ease, because I think our nature as humans is benevolent. I'm not going to say good and bad. I unsubscribed from the hero and demon stories a long time ago. We're all just either tired or regenerated.
Hmm. It's very interesting to me because a lot of people look at things so black and white, good or bad. And I even use like religion a lot of times because, I think religion is like a signpost, more than it is like subscribe to this one belief because this is the only belief that's actually real. Like, well, no, like, how about you decide that for yourself by learning a little bit more about what all the other ones might be able to teach you. And then ultimately, like, have a combined worldview because the better that you can understand more of the world around you, the better you understand other people.
Yeah.
So being able to live in that benevolence becomes a bit easier when you're able to connect with more people. But because, like you said, people are so stuck in that trance of busyness, the hurry, the burnout, the distraction, it's hard for them to do that because they can't shut that off. They don't feel like they can. So like,
Yeah.
what do you think's really going on for most people that like can't shut that off? What's under the hurry and the burnout and the distraction for you?
Yeah. By the way, I would like to respond to that question. It's essential. The religion thing you just brought up is such an important topic. There's one path of, hey, maybe dig into some of the other religions. What did Lao Tzu think? What's the Prophet Muhammad think in that scenario? What's the Buddha? What's the Buddha say? Just go and go. There's lots of religions. You'll see if you get to certain layers, pointing to a real similar thing, if not the identical thing. These are all different spaceships to get to the moon. And when we start thinking the spaceship is the truth, it's a signpost. Come on.
That's what Eckhart Tolle
And
says in Power Now.
totally. Just a bunch of paths, a bunch of signs. And I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not going to, say that definitively. But what I always encourage on the religion front, because it's weird how much it comes up in business. It's just that we're kind of not supposed to talk about it, yet it comes up a lot as soon as you get past how's the weather? Did the Indians win last night? As soon as you get past the BS, it comes up. So I always go with, whoa, let's go to I'm going to meet you right where you are. Oh,
Mhm.
you're Christian. Oh, you're Buddhist. Oh, you're Hindu. Beautiful. Tell me about the mystic side. Let's go there. I want to hear what you're feeling. How do you work from that? How do we integrate that to the computer and the email? I just love the topic. We can't get into that on this pod because we'll run out of time,
Sure.
but it's a cool subject and I'm glad you breached it. It's important.
Yeah, it's spirit and like just again, like we're not all that different. Like a lot of like you said, no good and bad. Like most of us are pretty much benevolent people, and we all want a lot of the same things. And I think that the
Yeah.
world, through a lot of different ways and avenues, tries to separate us from that. So I think that that is part of what's going on a lot
Mhm.
of times under the distraction, especially
Mhm.
the distraction element, keep people distracted, and you can't get back to that shadow
Mhm.
work or that sense of self. And they definitely can't power off. And that's something that you've talked about a lot, right? Like you talk about the
Mhm.
importance of the power of off. What does like
Mhm.
off done well actually look like for people today?
And the moniker I go by is the depth of your off determines the potency of your on. Any high performer knows that. That's a mathematical certainty for humans. It's human design, it's blood chemistry, it's body chemistry. Anyone who thinks differently is missing a huge part of their potential. So yeah, go ahead and zip through another 10-hour day where you didn't do any Ultradian rhythm breaks that humans have been doing for 300,000 years in this form. It's a bad idea and no one's paying attention. And that's why we're cortisol spiked, adrenal fatigued creatures with non-specific general anxiety and substance abuse problems. How many people raise your hands? No, don't raise your hands. How many people go to yeah, don't raise your hands. Go to sleep with a gummy because it's the only way to do it. How many people drink 3-4 cups of coffee? There's nothing wrong with caffeine. There's nothing wrong with altered state compounds. I'm a big user. I'll go anywhere with it, but I use it and I space it. I space it. And I'm talking coffee too, and alcohol too. Just because it's been legalized, because it's a $1 trillion entity, that's not the point. Krishnamurti nailed it when he said that, here in the West, we are all well adjusted to a profoundly sick society, but it's no sign of health. We're just well adjusted to what's going on. So we all think it's normal, but no one's asking the core question. But it's not healthy, but it's not profitable.
Like, why do we do this stuff in the first place? Like 100 years ago or so, bourbon was prescribed as a medicine. It was one of the first medicines by the FDA. Like, but yet, then all the other people that wanted to make that medicine made like fake versions of it, essentially, that were mixed with other things that were killing people. But like because bourbon was the prescribed thing of the time for when you were sick in certain parts of the country,
Yeah.
that became the normal. So why would anybody question it? They don't go a touch deeper. And to your point, especially in today's world, especially tied to self management, people
Mhm.
think that when they're off, I have to now go and quote unquote medicate or ease the pain of real life. So that's
Mhm.
why people, I feel like, go drink and they go do these other
Yeah.
things where they feel so attached to caffeine that I have to wake up and have my coffee or I can't function. No, maybe that's just the belief system you've had in your brain because you've watched everybody else around you do it, when really there's other people that are so much more connected. That I'm not saying you have to be this person that is so rigid that wakes up and does the same things every day. But if you
Yeah.
have some really great practices throughout your day that can help you, that aren't
Mhm.
these things, that aren't these like escapism type of things, you'll
Mhm.
get more grounded and more connected to yourself. And then ultimately, I would assume better self management.
I think there's no doubt about it. You bring awareness and consciousness back to it with ritual and ceremony, if that's your only way to do it. But at least you slow it down and you're the one doing it. And you remember that you as a once you get to that inner guidance system, that full connection with yourself, you're the one that makes all this magic happen. It's you don't need the caffeine. Hey, the caffeine helps. It's true. You think a little faster. It elevates the heart rate. That's cool. But yeah, as soon as that gets flowing in the blood and those adenosine receptors are just blocked by it all the time. So you don't have any more ultradian rhythm. Therefore, you can't possibly systemically recover. If you're a daily coffee drinker, especially like the 3 and 4 times a day, folk, the ultradian rhythm has left you, and you don't. I know that half the people just stop the podcast right now. That's cool. But for those who are still hanging, if you bring a little bit of ceremony, slow that down a little bit, dial it back for your own chemistry. Everyone's very different on this. But you will open up to a potential real rest break. So I've mentioned this ultradian break, and this goes back to your original question about deep off and the importance of it. When you let your ultradian, it's called a healing response, happen, and it happens roughly every 2 hours. You need to just pretty much shut your eyes and borderline nap. Don't watch
Hmm.
Desperate Housewives. Don't do social media. Get rid of all stimulus just for about 5 to 10 minutes every 2 hours without the caffeine. So your adenosine can actually hit the adenosine receptor. Then your system gets the signal and you actually go off. And it's a great feeling. The ideas that come, the plush revitalization that happens, like that's no need for coffee in the afternoons. That's personal. That's how I got rid of the whole coffee thing all day because I started to understand my biology.
Yeah, I've done a lot of stuff like that too. I wear a Whoop, so I started tracking,
Mm.
heart rate, resting heart rate, all these biometrics. And I'm a
Yeah.
runner, so like I experience
Mm.
a lot of what you're talking about on my runs. Where
Yeah.
I have ideation, just crazy ideation that happens because I'm just in that state of flow and I'm not thinking
Yeah.
about anything else but but my next steps, right? And then all of a sudden, it's like these things just start to flood to your brain because you're not distracted anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and then it depends on what you do about it. Like in the moment, sometimes I want to grab my phone and then I text my wife like the idea, so I make sure I get it down on paper and not forget it when I get back home.
Good for you, man. Me too. I'm not going to say it right now because she'll come on, but hey Siri, and then I'll say email me subject. Boom, I hit the idea, send. It's in my inbox, so then I process it on my next cycle through. So it's good to capture those things because that's your bigger self right there.
100%. But it's funny, like what we're talking about makes me think about something. We're both coaches.
Mhm.
And a lot of times, like you can tell people what to do, but getting them to actually move forward and do it is a whole nother thing, right? They have to believe that it's going to help them. And sometimes that belief comes after the fact. Like, why do you think that you mentioned before, some people might stop watching the podcast because of the caffeine comments that we both made, because it doesn't align with their current belief system. And that's okay. They'll have to get over that hump on their own. But why do you think people don't spend enough time to do that? Is it because that they're distracted or they're worried about what they're gonna find if they go a layer deeper?
I think it's because of a mechanism at play, and you've referenced Tolle. He goes deep and talks a lot about our ego, and I do believe it's a mechanism at play within our own egos. I do believe that our ego's number one job is to ensure that we believe our thoughts. I think it's a survival mechanism, and it works. By the way, it keeps us alive to stay in the familiar. If you back up at genetic level, humans, the nervous system, the thing that's moving us and stimulating us, is it has one job: to keep you alive. So If that limbic stem says, that's not familiar, I don't care what the prefrontal cortex says about how beneficial this new idea is. If that limbic stem, which is your systemic gatekeeper, says, I'm not familiar with that, it's not getting in the club, it's out. It doesn't matter how much sense it makes, because that's not familiar, and therefore it's not predictable, and therefore that's risk to this organism. It's not getting in. This is why visualization happens. This is actually the human mechanism of why the New Year's resolutions don't work. This is why vision boards are real. This is why law of attraction is real. That repetition. Once the limbic stem says, oh, I've seen you before, you're not coming in yet. Oh, I've seen you before. How you doing, Johnny? How are the kids? You're still not getting in. But on the about 20th time, the limbic system says, I recognize you. Okay, go on in. You're in the club. Boom. And all of a sudden, here we go. The other thing I'll say about that is the other mechanism at play here is that we are, I don't buy into that thing that we are the 5 people we hang around the most. I want to go a layer deeper. What's under that? I believe we are the 5 beliefs that we repeat to ourselves the most. And we surround ourselves with the 5 people that buy into that belief for us to keep it going, baby. So it's on us. It's always on us. Don't look outside. Go to stillness. I've built a lot of custom GPTs. One of them is it's called the Socratic Sherpa, where I categorically disallow bullshit. It doesn't give my ego 1 molecule. You should see how brutal it is. And it's the level of clarity after every one of those interactions is unbelievable. And I had to build it. It had to come from outside of me so that I could talk with myself with it. It was so important. And it's hard to get a psychologist who's really good at Socratic method. And there's no one better than GPT. It's just an emotionless dogfight that you get into if you program it right.
Yeah. And it's so funny because just while you were talking before about the 5 beliefs, rather than the 5 people, you'll
Mhm.
surround yourself with people, like you said, that will foster your belief. And the minute that you are around somebody that doesn't, it doesn't matter. So, like, I think about the people that have victim mindset, right?
Mhm.
You could do your absolute best. You could be like the most encouraging, inspiring person, give them all the social proof you want from your own life. But if they believe they're a victim, they're just going to shut it back down. And they will make sure that they don't spend time with you as often because they know that you're going to challenge their belief system. And I think centered at a lot of what we're talking about is courage. Again, like, it just keeps popping back up. Your courage to go out and say, I'm going to use technology that's available to me today, like AI. I'm going to learn how to create my own model, because some people will roadblock themselves and say, well, I don't know how to do that, just to be able to stay in their belief system. And then, now you go out and you say, okay, I have my Socratic Sherpa that's going to help me and give me real feedback based on me.
Yeah.
That takes courage. And I think a lot of people don't want to leave their current mindset because, like you said before, it's unsafe. But it's to get back to the self-management piece, like, it's a form of self-management, and it's a form of self-health, I think, to challenge yourself, because
It
if you
is.
don't, you're just going to fall in these same thought processes for the rest of your life. You become that person, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Great summary. Fully resonating with all of that. It goes back to that thing too of, did you live 80 years or did you live 1 year 80 times?
Mm-hmm.
I do not buy into age equates to wisdom at all. It's the ones that are just aggressively pursuing. And we've mentioned Socrates already. He was brought to trial uh, in front of a court, like the very city that loved him, Athens, for decades, all of a sudden turned on him because he started just questioning everything, including leadership, including the gods at the time. So this is all relevant to right now.
It is.
And they said, "Hey, we're gonna kill you if you don't stop." And he said, "All right, kill me." He literally chose death over BS. And now I'm not saying let's go do that, but let's take a little of that. That'd be a
Yeah,
good move.
take a little thin slice of that, or like Galileo when he started telling everybody that the Earth wasn't the center of the universe, and they threw all the church threw all his books in a vault and said, "Don't believe anything this guy says because he's not right. The Earth is the center of the universe. Keep thinking that." So I just find that
Right.
stuff very interesting.
And it happens so much. One more example, in
Yeah,
Vienna, there was
please.
the surgeon who, at the hospital in that region, all the mothers were dying in these hospitals. Have you ever heard this example? It's
No, tell me. Go
fascinating
ahead.
because it's recent. It's in the 19th century. Like, this is right. This is us. Science was underway, and he's like, "Hey, this is strange. I have students who come in, they don't wash their hands. The other ones do. And those are the ones that are dying because we're teaching them here in this region, in this zone." So he was begging everyone to start wash their hands because he saw it cleanly. Like, they were carrying through bacteria from the mothers before, and it just kept festering and got bigger. Long story short, he ends up getting fired. Everyone said this guy's a quack. He ends up dying in a mental institution because he was so furious that we're going to keep letting these mothers and children die. Like, what are you doing? Certainty might be the ultimate cancer of human. If you feel certain about anything, know you've just reached ultimate ignorance, because there isn't one molecule that stays the same in the planet, in this cosmos. It's all shifting. Like, you can't step in the same river twice. No man can, because the man's different and the river's different. So certainty is disaster. Keep learning, keep learning, keep learning. And we all get that expert point. Like, I feel the certainty quite a bit. And man, I now know, red flag, baby, red flag, because the world's changing. And that's hard to do when you're supposed to be the expert in a room. You're actually paid to be the expert in a room. And so it's a real practice when you're deep in a craft, which I know you are. I know I'm. When you're boxing, like, certainty is one thing, but still in the backside with you and God and whatever your deal is with the cosmos, remain as humble as can be.
I totally agree. Yeah, there's one thing like in a sport like boxing for sure. Like
Mhm.
you can walk in and know what you know, but at the same time, anybody can walk in there and teach you something, even somebody that's newer than you, in everything, because they don't have this seal over their brain stopping new information from coming in, and they have a totally different perspective because of the way that they're being introed into whatever that sport or category of knowledge is, or even if they just think differently than you. So, like, getting my wife's opinion on things that we do in the business with coaching, because she's not a business coach and she's not
Mhm.
the same personality type as me. She brings a lot more emotional intelligence to the play and things that we might not have thought of before. So, and then being receptive to that, right? So it's super
Yeah.
important, and we tell ourselves, like, a lot of times, as like these big lies, because of society, about efficiency and success and time and all these
Mhm.
things. In your opinion, Jason, like, what are the biggest lies that we're sold on, I guess, about time, efficiency, and ultimately being a high, quote unquote, high performer?
I wouldn't even, okay, so I wouldn't call them as lies. I would say they're beliefs, because and it's yes and so there's a time for grit, but if it has been habitualized, forget about it. There's a time for hurry. Oh yeah, get off the road. There's a semi coming. But if you find yourself sprinting frantically all day long, there's a problem. So I think it's two things. I think it's momentum of our culture, momentum of business. Um, I think it's a belief that if I am not in the room, if I don't have my hands on it, it's going to crash, and that's false belief. In some areas it's true, in some areas it's not. There's that example of, do you have a dog by chance, Ron? Did you ever grow
Say
up
that
with any
again.
dogs or anything? Do you have
Yeah,
a
no.
dog?
I grew up with dogs and I have two cats
Okay.
currently, but I love all animals.
Okay. Well, you watch this phenomenon. I grew up with dogs too. Always had like 2 or 4 dogs in the house. My mom would pick up any rescue dog. When you get one of those dogs that, like, it'll hump a leg, and then when the leg is gone, it keeps humping, but there's no leg. Uh, we're all that humping dog in business, where it's, whoa, you are way overshooting the runway with this busy, hurried. thing and it's burning you out. So I think I probably would answer this succinctly with momentum. It's momentum and not having the courage to say, wait a minute, is this actually profitable? Is this the most beneficial thing? And it's hard to stop that momentum. It's hard to be the one that wants to do that. You might get hung on a cross.
What if you're in like a situation, Jason, let's say, where you have two high performing people in a business, let's just say, and one of them seems more, I guess, on the ball, looking at all the details, and one of them's a little bit more shoot off the cuff. Like you have a lot of times, this visionary integrator role in a lot of duo entrepreneurships. So like how do people balance that if they're in a role like that, let's just say, or like
Yeah, I
kind
think
of get to a agreement point?
right. To respect each other and allow them to have their superpower. I mean, they're both geared differently. They're different creatures. I think if you're an owner overseeing those two, it's a matter of, do I have them in the right seat on this bus, for starters? Because you're not going to probably shift them unless they have awareness of this being a problem. Then at
Mhm.
least you have a crack at them meeting in the middle. So I think from a leadership standpoint, it'd be like, okay, let's just check in. Is this even recoverable? And if you find they are bumping into each other a lot, I think the other effective thing you can do is getting them in a room in a very uh, real, kind of like a coming to Jesus conversation, and say, hey, everybody, let's talk about what is the threat that might be felt versus what is the disagreement. One is data and one is emotion. And this little exercise helps people who are misaligned, whether it be the way they're structured, they might be different, CI, or they might be different personality types or whatever, but at least bringing this awareness helps them to have the conversation and keep the bus moving. From then on,
Mhm.
they can decipher, oh, well, this is emotion within me. This isn't data, like back to the actual subject. So I think
Right.
that's a really cool practice that can be done too on
Yeah,
those
for
situations.
sure. I appreciate that because, again, in the entrepreneurial world, the high performance world, I think a lot of people, you can't do anything alone. So finding the right type of people that do have different superpowers is a great thing, but also staying in alignment in terms of the ultimate goal
Yeah.
by all parties becomes important. I want to go into, Jason, the spacious productivity piece
Mhm.
that you talk about. Can you go into detail a little bit on that, and how does someone actually create that in their daily life?
Yeah, the idea of spacious productivity, the reason I name the deliverable that is because that's the feeling that I want any audience in front of me to feel, whether it be after a speaking engagement like how you and I first engaged, or with the workshops, which is kind of like my primary thing. That's what I really love doing, is getting, small teams or large teams. It doesn't matter. But getting companies or cohorts into this half day workshop I do. And how you can implement it is really just, I forget who, somebody just came out with a book. We're kind of one of the main themes in the book. And I apologize. I should know the name. I can't come up with it right now, but he talks about doing the fundamentals savagely well. I'm sure Google will have our answer right there, but it's right on. That is what spacious productivity is about. There are human optimization principles that work. If you are a human and you have neurochemistry and blood chemistry and a meatloaf in your skull, there are some human optimization principles that will fundamentally change your experience and how much you can produce and your overall, highest contribution. So that's what we cover in spacious productivity. And what it really does underneath it all is takes people who are operating, it's really for all knowledge workers. So if you have a computer and you have access to the digital realm, this is stuff for you. But I take people who are kind of in some form of hurried, busy, distracted, and burnt out, whether you're a lot or a little or some on each or whatever. And I go through these. Actually, I have 13 crafts or human optimization principles that I'll take them through in this workshop. And on the other side of that, the audience starts operating in a state of calm, deliberate, swift, like a samurai swift. because there's still a lot to do, right? And regenerated. And I'm not talking about regenerating at night. That's amateur. If you want to go pro, you have to regenerate all day long. Our species did it for the first 300,000 years until the industrial age when they said, work between the bells. Then they engineered the schools around the bells of industry. Now the digital age, and it's 24/7 on. So we have categorically, systemically eliminated this recovery, this regeneration. We just don't have a clue. And so that's what spacious productivity is about. It's a feeling I want to bring to the earth. In the end, I also like to call it, you reach a state of balanced thriving. I mean, thrive, but do it in a harmonized way. So that's what spacious productivity is.
How does somebody know? So incredible. Like, how does somebody know that they're living in that balanced thriving? Let's just say, is it just like you said, a feeling because you have all the pillars of your life kind of an attention towards all of them?
How does somebody know? They don't know. They feel it. It's way before knowing and way more important than knowing. You become an atmosphere. Literally, you become a contagious atmosphere that when people walk in a room, they don't even need to talk to you. They look over at you and say, whatever that dude is having, I need some.
I want some of
Yeah.
that.
What is that? I can't put my finger on it. And as soon as we put words to it, that's how divinity is with me. I think it was Rumi that said that silence is the language of God. All else is poor translation. It's
Mhm.
kind of like that. I could describe spacious productivity for you. You could even probably describe it back to me. But once you really get that feeling for a few weeks and you're starting to habitualize it, ooh, baby, that
Yeah.
gets nice.
And that's where, like, again, the coaching piece, you could tell somebody how to do something, but then
Mhm.
actually doing it, they can regurgitate it back out to you and tell you they understand, right? Like, yeah, I can tell you the definition of spacious productivity, but do you feel what that actually feels like? Do you feel what balanced thriving actually feels like? Are you actively being a practitioner? And I think that people, like you've said one time, I heard you say, like, the goods in your life can be eating up the best in your life.
Yeah.
And I think that people um, get stuck on the good and they don't realize that great or best is just a matter of allowing your mindset to shift and open up to being a practitioner of some of the things that you may know. Like, not to eat bad food and alcohol and drink alcohol excessively all the time, but yet a lot of people go do that as a way to, again, that escapism, to escape from their realities. You know, again, that's eating up the best of your life because it's taking away from your health and your longevity. So
Mhm.
I just think that's so interesting.
Yeah, and I don't remember who I stole that from, but I definitely heard it from someone, whatever context I said that in. But it's right on, and this is the essence of what spacious productivity is. One of the things with that is existential clarity, which brings existential confidence. And until you get slow, forget about it. You're not going to see it. You're not going to feel it. You're not going to know intuitively. I don't care. I'm at a stage in my career now where I don't really care about the getting the gig. I am so obsessed with what's going to be embodied. Like, is this a crowd that actually wants this? I don't care what the price tag is. I'm kind of over that egoic get the gig. Let's get how many talks per month. Like the metrics are starting to really fade away from me. I want to see humans shifting. Uh, I think that's the essence of spacious productivity. It's the feeling that I want to be able to sense. They call me and said, this changed my life. I love that.
Same, same. I literally like live for that feeling in terms
Mhm.
of, professionally, and then also just in my day to day interactions when energy a lot of times for me, Jason, just kind of comes towards me. And maybe that's just because they could feel that on me that I'm willing to like listen and accept whatever they're going through. So Nikki always says to me, she goes, people just start talking to you. Like they just start opening up to you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't understand it. Like it's just something that happens to you. And I'm like, maybe I'm just open to it. And maybe they could feel that to a certain degree. Because again, like you said, like I want to be able to leave that impact on the world. I'm not worried about my name being remembered. That's ego. Like it's the impact that we're going to make. Scott Joseph, shout out to him. He talks about that a whole lot. And I think that when people are more interested in impact rather than the status, the finances, and things like that, those all come as a byproduct. But also, like, what about for the people that, they're trying to dig themselves out of, let's say, like financial debt in this hole, those people, seems to me, they have a harder time grasping this because they say, well, how
Mhm.
can I go and do that when I have all these other stressors like
Mhm.
bad debt and all these other things lingering over their head? Like how about for like those people, how could they connect maybe a little bit more with that feeling of balanced thriving and reaching a space of spacious productivity?
Yeah, I think my response is very similar to someone who is literally vibrating in red, desperate, sucking air against the ropes. And it's real. Like I see quite a bit of that around. In fact, I was just having a coaching session this morning with someone who just reached out to me, similar situation. Um, and I kind of look at it as help them to get to a different belief structure. We keep touching on this belief thing where we're not talking about giving up and going off to the Himalayas and doing some mantras with some monks here, but you do need to start mantraing, start believing something a little bit different. You don't have to go from fear to love, but maybe go from fear to anger. It's healthy. That's real healthy. From anger to understanding, from understanding to, David Hawkins has that whole energetic thing where you just have to climb. You don't go
Uh,
from 0 to 1,000. And so I would mantra for them something like witness reality, harmonize what you can right here, right now, and very swiftly relinquish the rest with every cell of your body and keep doing that like every minute and have a plan from there. Like once you get a little bit of footing, just have a plan. It might mean bankruptcy. It might mean you're going to have to
right.
unidentify with this person you think you were, this illusion that you're living. You can redefine everything and you'd be shocked how fast the world doesn't care. It just takes some of that weight off.
Wow, yeah, it's again that ego or the limiting beliefs or the things that you've been sold on from your past that keep you from, I guess, living
Mhm.
that best life, that
Yeah.
balanced, thriving life and living in that feeling. And I love that you said, do one step at a time. A lot of people always ask me for advice on, let's say, running. And they say, like, I see you run, 7, 10 miles at this pace. And like, how the heck did you get there? I say, well, what are you doing right now? Well, I don't run as often as I'd like to. I'd like to start, but I don't know how. I said, just start, meaning go to the track even. I tell people this. I say, go to the track, and all I want you to do is jog the straights and walk the turns. Like it could be that simple. It could just be as simple as doing that one time around the track and leaving. Like,
Mhm.
and then now go back and build on. And
Mhm.
you said something before that was also super important, which is the slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Don't worry about getting there so fast. It's like, get there in a smooth way, and a lot of times going slower and
Mhm.
intentionally is going to get you there. It might not feel like things are changing around you because it's happening in real time. The universe, everything that you're attracting is out in the ethos around you. And every
Mhm.
time you make those little steps towards it, you're getting closer to that. And you just have to allow it to take its course. Like you can't speed up a lot of the things if they are meant for you in certain times. You end up meeting them where they are, right? So if running's the goal and you want to run a half marathon, a full marathon, just start by running a mile and don't look at how long
Mhm.
it took you. Just start by doing that. So it's such a great point.
Yeah, and that slow is fast thing, super important to zoom in on that because I think a lot of people hear that and say, "Dude, you saying that to me? You don't know my situation." I like I've done a load of work with Commander Mark McGinnis, who's heading up 27 years, all SEAL teams on the Eastern Seaboard. This guy knows his stuff, and he was the one who really got me zoomed in on that. And his line is, "Slow is calm, calm is fast." So it's actually calm and deliberate is what's fast. hurried without any discernment between what's essential and what's not, that's slow. You go as fast as you want. These the Shaolin monks will take their toothbrushes out and they'll clean their stairs, like the 7,000 stairs that goes up to their monastery. They are deeply calm in ways we normal humans can't even understand, but they are moving awesomely swiftly. So that's how it gets done.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, and we talk about a lot of people talk about getting in this state of flow, and I know that you talk about this a lot. I'd like to touch on it because I think flow state is such an interesting topic because people think they're experiencing flow when they're not, and sometimes they are. You know, how do you explain flow states to people, especially people who are looking to perform at high levels? And how can they begin to, like, I guess, again, deliberately engineering them, those
Mhm.
flow state moments into their day or have more of them?
All right. Uh, First, I'll respond with a little shamanic lens. Flow is always, we are in it and we simply become afraid and don't reveal it. That's God's truth. And when I say afraid, all the thing that fear brings, and I'm not talking about even afraid traditionally, like, I'm afraid the monster's going to eat me. I'm talking about the subconscious belief structures that you have no idea are going on, all fear based. Like our parents, God bless them. Me as a parent and even a grandparent, I'm doing the same thing to them. I know I am. I've got my beliefs I'm throwing through to them on accident, but they were afraid. They were confused just like we are. And you got the program. I got news for you. You got it. And when you begin doing enough work, when you go deep enough in your religion to the mystic levels, like if you're a Christian, go back to Aramaic Jesus, go to the Hebrew, see what the translations were. It's a big, big, cool world. And do the conventional stuff too, as long as it means something to you and it's moving the dial. Um, so that's the first lens I would throw on that is that shamanic lens, so to speak. It's always here. This flow is actually the emergence of all of it, and you're part of it. I got news for you. The other lens I'll throw is, okay, there are some things you can do to invite that up at work. This is what I teach business people, to multiply their cognitive abilities by roughly 5 times per hour worked by curating and protecting flow state in your life. It's as simple as proactively put calendar blocks in your calendar, call it deep work flow state or whatever you want. There are a lot of street names for this. It's transient hypofrontality is what the real science folks call it. So if you want to do your Google Scholar and really learn about this, look transient hypofrontality up. But it's real. It's very real. I can assure you it changed my life. I personally go into 3 flow state sessions per day, ranging from 45 minutes to an hour and a half. And I accomplish 2 to 3 days worth of work compared to myself not utilizing curated flow state in my day.
Mm.
And the next logical question is, whoa, I want some of that. 5 times cognitive abilities. It's real. Of course you want that. Everyone does. It's a natural human state. You basically just need to proactively decide what the one thing you're going to work on is in this block, or the 3 things, but only done one thing at a time, and let your neural network grow. Your connectome happens very naturally when you give it just single point attention and you turn all alarms off, all notifications. The phone must be hidden behind your laptop because it's now a reflex. If your peripheral vision sees the shape of your phone, it is in your hands. There goes another 15 minutes of your life to nothing. So flow state's very natural. Just protect your awareness, get it in the calendar proactively, and then do that. Like I always tell people, I'll do audits sometimes with some of the clients. I'll say, okay, show me which flow states you're doing next Monday. Like these should be in there as recurrence, and you really protect these. Okay, show me which ones you did yesterday. And it just gets messy and they didn't do them and they have every reason why. And I say, think about what you're doing for a minute. You are canceling on a meeting with a 5 times cognitive version of yourself. This is the most important meeting of your life. And every day you cancel on it. Every single day. Not an intelligent move. And it's all from the momentum. of our society and our culture. We're not doing deliberate life.
No. And, while you were talking about that, it just makes me think of you've experienced it in the form of email, especially because you worked in different time zones all at the same time. Like I heard you say, people waking up in North America and I'm in Southeast Asia. And now, I have everybody waking up over there after I've had a full day over here.
It's
Right. So
brutal.
it's just a nonstop bombardment. And I feel like that's the same thing, even with, again, social media and just our culture, especially in Western civilization. And
Mhm.
it's like, they don't know how to shut it off, and then it's also so ingrained in you that just to think about that, what you said, like, just the shape of your phone being in your proximity, in your peripheral vision is enough to take your subconscious out of the picture, and
Yep.
enough to know, like, "Okay, well, if that dings, immediately my attention's gonna change." So
Yeah.
you can't even have it in your vision. So, I guess in today's world, how are people I you mentioned, I think, architectural calendaring, and maybe that's the
Mhm.
answer. But is that how people are avoiding these distractions or limiting the distractions? How do they get into those flow states more
Yeah.
effectively?
Yeah, in the workshops that we do with teams, that we do the architectural calendaring module, and that is where you engineer proactively your own dream day. But it's way more than just that. I mean, it's systemic, because this is a systemic problem. So I can't give a tip or a trick and it works. It's not like that, but it is handled in the architectural calendaring module. That's how it's about utilizing your technology, whether you're a Google platform or you're an Outlook platform. If that's how a lot of that stuff hits you, you without learning how to utilize those platforms as they were designed to be used, you're going to lose. If you're
Mhm.
living out of your inbox, you're a fraction of what you could be. Period. End of sentence. I'm not allowing another answer. I hate this certainty thing, but I feel I got it right now. Living out of your inbox is hurting you badly.
Yeah, and the inbox, living it in your inbox for the busy professional, but then the people that wanna achieve other goals outside of business are living in their social media, and they're playing the comparison game,
That's a biggie. Yeah.
So
Oh
I
my
just
gosh.
find a lot of
Yeah, that's a
people a
that's a whole
lot of
other
people now.
universe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, though, but I think that so many people are distracted, and they're also comparing themselves socially, to other people that have the quote unquote "material things" that they may want, and then saying, "I'm not good enough to get those."
Yeah.
The guy with the Lamborghini, like, I was told by my parents, "Don't go up and touch that car." Not me
Yeah.
personally, but, like, as an example, "Don't go up and touch that
Yep.
car, that's for rich people." Like, they immediately
Yeah.
separate themselves from the
Yeah.
possibilities of having these other life experiences,
You're
just because
right.
of what you said.
Yeah, and that gets into the distraction management piece. The distraction, that's a distraction. Your beliefs are a heavy distraction from your highest contribution. And by the way, I
What
remembered what else I was going to say about this distraction thing from digital world, whether it be social, email, or whatever. The thing that comes before all of it is what we talked about originally, and that is, what are your values? Why are you doing all this? So that's your lighthouse. Every breath you take, my personal ones are real fast. I reveal unconditional love, and I help all to their highest contribution. If if checking social media has to do with that, I'm in, and I'm fiercely in. If living out of my inbox has to do with that, I'm in. But Harvard Business
Mhm.
Review just came out with that study where it's published, where they said that 14% of what is in your inbox, if you're a working professional, has to do with your mission or direct intention. Statistically, 86% of what is in your inbox has nothing to do with it. Do you really want to keep feeding out of that trough? It's not a good move. It's all noise. It's almost all noise and no signal in that inbox and in that social media.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned the noise and signal piece. I've heard that, of course, from the Steve Jobs, where he talks about noise and signal and only being so hyper focused on just this everything that's signal. If it's noise, nothing to do with that. But it's so true. Like, you follow your inner light, you follow the things, the unconditional love, and you're all in. It doesn't matter how much of it is there. So I guess really the point for the people listening is, like, follow that. And if you don't know what that is, you have to do the deep work to find out what that is. And it,
Yeah.
it might require a reset. It might require shedding a good portion of who you think you are in order to
Yeah.
become who you're really truly meant to be. Is that accurate?
That's right on. Of course, that's it. Get to that authenticity however you can. Have the courage to do it. Change the beliefs, go inside. That's where most of it's going to happen.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more. I want to be gracious to your time, of course, Jason, and I appreciate you being on the show. Tell me a little bit more about Focus to Evolve. Like, where can people find that? And also, like, what's the journey looked like for you going from the Fortune 100 to creating the programs, the academy, and even your workshops and your keynotes experiences?
Yeah, the journey. So the transition was, uh, I did a little two timing before I did switch over. I was booking some trainings with some companies. I happened to land, um, Northwestern Mutual has been a big client of mine for a long time. They're different teams and their markets all across the country. And so, I had some gigs. I had a little bit of runway on the other side. And I knew probably 6 months where it was just like, my passion was getting out of the bag here and the toothpaste. I couldn't put the toothpaste back in the jar. Like, that's what I'm going to do now. I was pumped. And I had early indication with, training high performance teams, with, sales teams and similar to you, like, but not focusing on the biz dev. It was more about how to be effective, personally. And so, that's where I just, there was a day where it was like, yeah, I think it's time. I think it's time. And we wrapped up a couple, like a platform within one of the countries, and it was just like right timing. So the transition itself was relatively smooth. It wasn't scary. I didn't mortgage the house. And I know a lot of people do that, and that's unbelievably courageous. I didn't have that journey. And then the road from that point, that was 2015-ish, something like that, I think, 2016. The road up has just been like any entrepreneur, man. Depends which week you talk to me. I'm going to be a millionaire, and then I'm not. Then I'm a million. Then I'm not.
I
Like,
understand that completely. But
yeah.
in regards to Focus to Evolve, like, talk to me about like the academy. Like, who's it built for? What's the experience like? What are the workshops like? And who should be reaching out to you?
All right. So the focus to evolve as a company, we have basically four services. The first, speaking engagement keynote talks on these subjects and these things we've talked about today. Workshops with teams and cohorts and organizations and networking groups, all kinds of people that we'll do workshops with. And then we've got one-to-one coaching. Kind of moving away from that just because I want to do the groups. It's bigger impact, it's more ripple, but I still do one-to-one coaching on these subjects. And then what you just mentioned is the Focus to Evolve Academy, which is an online academy that gives a kind of like a bite-sized version of Spacious Productivity, where you get to, it's about 3 hours worth of content and little 20-minute modules. Do it on your time. So that's a way to do it. That's pretty clean and simple. And that's how we bring our mission to the world. Those four avenues, so to speak.
Beautiful. All right. So if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way?
Yeah, best way for sure. LinkedIn is like the easiest, fastest. That's just look me up, Jason Henkel, on that, or Focus to Evolve. Either way, I'll get the message. Or www.focus2, and that's TO, evolve.com, and check out what we're up to there, and you can just hit the contact us page. You will be responded to within 24 hours. If you wanted to dig a little deeper and maybe sign up for one of these, or actually, I don't do standing. I should say that I don't do standing workshops where sign up. We're having
Yeah.
it on August 28th. I don't do that. I go out to client side or, group site or whatever, or
Primarily
wherever they
when
have me.
when it's requested.
Correct. Yeah.
Understood. Okay, cool. That's good to know, man, because I think that after listening to this episode and doing a little bit more research on what you do, I think anybody out there listening should definitely contact Jason if you feel out of alignment for whatever reason, you're experiencing burnout, or anything like that. You have a tremendous opportunity to get the knowledge out there to change your life and get the structure, the systems, the planning, and really the ultimate feeling of balanced thriving if you actually go ahead and just have a little bit of courage and put some feelers out there. Somebody like Jason, and his team will definitely be there to help you. Jason, just as we close out, I have one last question, and it's a great American underdog question that I'm trying to get answers from everybody on to see the
Oh, cool.
differences. But
Yeah.
in today's world, if you had to finish this sentence, how would you finish it? The world needs more people who.
Do the inner work.
Hmm.
Don't worry about them. Go right. Hold that mirror up. I'll never forget quoting Rumi twice in this pod, but this is a biggie. He said when he was clever, he was changing the world. And now that I'm wise, I'm changing myself. It's where it's at. You just got to believe it and start doing the work. It's way bigger than trying to fix everything out there.
I love that, man. Thank you so much, Jason. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Any last things you want to leave the audience?
No, let's keep revealing unconditional love and helping everyone to their highest contribution.
I love that, man. That's such a great sentiment to end the episode. This has been an incredible another episode of Great American Underdog, where we share real stories of strength and success from real life underdogs who have overcome their obstacles in their own lives to find their own versions of success. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.